Today I'm going to explore one of the best techniques that you can do on a daily basis to heighten an awareness of self and manifest everything that you really want. Hey, I'm Blake, and today we're going to be talking about the number one tool that you can use to build a better relationship with yourself and master your own self-awareness. So in order to become self-aware, one has to be aware of the self. And the best tool for becoming more aware of self is journaling. I think that a lot of people would agree with this, and if you've never journaled before, it's pretty straightforward. It's actually pretty easy. You just take a pen and you start writing down in a book or a piece of paper, whatever. You start writing. And it doesn't have to be anything profound. It doesn't have to be anything neat. There's this process of revisiting yourself that you need to go through, which is you're authentic and true to yourself, and you captivate all that. You captivate it permanently. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can journal. You don't have to use a pen and paper. You can use, you can text, you can put notes into the computer, you can type at a computer, you could talk on a recorder if you wanted to. Really, there's no right or wrong way to do it, right? So long as you're doing it. There's so many benefits that you can get from journaling. You may be struggling with things like sleeping at night, or you may be struggling with having remediation and having the same thoughts just constantly bombard you night after night or day after day throughout the day. Getting a lot of that down on paper pulls it out of your head. Actually writing those things down, seeing it on the ink, seeing it now actually in the world will take that out of your mind and actually distribute it out so that it's no longer sitting there. You're no longer having to shuffle through it. I actually grabbed a few of my journals. I have a bunch of these like moleskin bound journals. I had this like gift, this like small one that I wrote in that, and none of these I filled up, but I've definitely written in them. This one right here that I had, this is like the longest running one I had. I only filled it up maybe halfway, but what's interesting is that this was actually what I used during COVID, because COVID was probably for a lot of people, was a really weird time. It was a really stressful time, and I just had to find some kind of new routines because I couldn't find enough toilet paper at the store, so I had to keep finding a way to fill up my time better. And one of the best ways was to get into a routine with journaling. Now, it wasn't perfect, but I was flipping through here. I actually I'd been on this meditation retreat not too long ago, and I took all my old journals because I was going to have a lot of time to reflect in that meditation retreat. And when I did, I knew that I was going to want to read back through a lot of these because I hadn't read some of these entries. But this was really insightful because these entries go back 3 years. And when I'm looking back at a lot of this stuff, I'm realizing that there are a lot of seeds of thought that I had of where I wanted my life to go and how I wanted things to work out. And these ideas of moving to South America, ideas of leaving San Francisco came up, ideas of doing digital nomading, and even ideas of finding a new purpose, finding a new career. I wasn't really happy with what I was doing. It wasn't because I wasn't making enough money. I was making good money. I had a great opportunity. I had a lot of fun working in San Francisco, and I had even fought a big battle of getting there to do what I wanted to do. But I definitely wasn't happy because my life just wasn't it didn't feel like I was really settled into my purpose. So it's hard sometimes to know what that purpose is. But what I found is that I've gotten closer to a lot of those answers. And it's not until I went back to the journal and I read these entries did I realize, oh, there's a lot of seeds here that I think were a platform for me to stand upon, because I actually realized at that time that I needed to write about it. And if I hadn't written about it, maybe things would have still happened, maybe I would have still moved forward, but the future me has gotten a lot of validation and a lot of confirmation that I've grown, I've improved, I've moved forward from another point. When we kind of go through life, a lot of these ideas that we have, we kind of feel like we've come up with a lot of these ideas just yesterday or a month ago. You know, they're not new ideas, but this idea that they feel like they're new ideas, but they're really not. They're ideas that we've been working on and we've really been massaging into our lives for a while. So some of my biggest regrets when it comes to journaling is the gaps. So this is April of 2020. I was very consistent. I was writing every day for a while there, and then at some point in it looks like, so in June I was writing a lot. A few times in here where I think I started traveling. When I initially started going to Denver, I think I had one of my last entries for a while was when I first left San Francisco and I went to Denver. And then I didn't really write in it the whole time I was in Denver. I ended up writing right as I left Denver. And some of these writings in here aren't really anything introspective at all. I was kind of, I think, more at a point where I was like just trying to get myself writing again, and it wasn't really anything too in detail. But you know, sometimes I pick it up, but the biggest regret looking back at a lot of this is like, man, I really wish I had kind of put something in there, maybe even just a few lines here or there, maybe a couple paragraphs. I think those things would have been pretty insightful, because I do remember, you know, you still remember some of the things that you went through, and there's definitely, it would have been nice to get a better perspective in that. It's really important for creating this relationship with yourself, creating this, it's like every time I find a journal with some old entries, it's like I'm getting to read the story of me. I'm getting to read the story about me and how I've grown. And there's been moments where I read about stuff and I completely forgot about it. And I go back there and I'm relearning those lessons, but not in the same way that I learned them when they were then, but the way that I am taking the lesson about seeing the way I've grown now, realizing I would have handled some of the situations differently, or the reason why I would handle those situations differently were the way that I navigated them then. I think one of the best things you can do is be active and write as much as possible, because looking back on it maybe a week, a month is great, but really looking back on it years from now is really interesting. So I hope this talk on journaling was important to you. I hope you really see how this is a tool that you can use to really improve your self-awareness, not only self-awareness, but also the evolution of you and your future self, the way that you'll be able to kind of check in and be able to hold yourself accountable and grow over time. I'm going to be going over more in detail of suggestions throughout all pillars of emotional intelligence and talking about this topic quite a bit. So if this resonates with you, please give this a like, share, subscribe, and I look forward to talking to you again very soon in the next video.